Headed to the Lewis Automotive Hotline here on a Tuesday to speak with Alyssa Orange. Always appreciate her time with us. And Alyssa, when I texted, was on the road somewhere. Are you still on the road? Is it still pouring? And how's the cell signal?
I am still on the road. It is still raining, but the cell service is much better because I'm getting closer back into town.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time of the year, Alyssa. You know, we've got media days next week. The Major League Draft starts on Sunday. Basketball's going to have a quasi press conference with a practice tomorrow. And there's just a little bit of every team that we usually kick around to talk about right now. So what's forefront for you here? Because it's still been a week since the end of last athletic calendar, and next calendar hasn't necessarily started. So what's top of mind for you?
Yeah. Well, I think you just kind of look at football and what exactly is going to go on with this Arkansas football team. And, SEC Media Days is next week. The Big 12 Media Day is going on right now at the Star in Frisco. And that conversation's just starting to heat up and what things are going to look like this year on a national scale, right, with college football. But then you look at, the questions people have for Arkansas. Is Talon Green going to be better in year two? He just got done going to the Manning camp. I know that he was really excited, able to sit down and talk to him a little bit, excited to go down there and just soak everything up and learn as much as he can from the guys who are going to be there, the Mannings themselves, and then obviously, pour into the kids who attend those things too. So I know that he's really excited to take that next step in Bobby Petrino's offense and slow the game down a little bit. But I think that's what everyone's focused on is, can Arkansas be better than they were a season ago and where they line up with the rest of the SEC? And it's what everyone is talking about heading into next week in Atlanta.
Well, that's for certain, and the hope is that there's an improved offensive line. I imagine just bringing in new guys may help with the idea of it being improved. And you're going to have, I think it's 4 different starters, or maybe 3 different from what you saw in the Liberty Bowl. But it starts there offensively. If you're looking on the other side of the ball defensively, where do you need to see the most improvement?
Yeah, I just think for the last couple of years, there's been such question marks at that linebacker position. And what does that position look like? And where does that talent lie and how they go about that group? And, I think because of some lack of depth, we've seen them play a little bit more, with nickel and having those kind of formations just to help the linebackers out a little bit. That's always been a question mark for me. And then obviously in the secondary, we always talk about speed. And I think over the last 6 years, they've gotten better in that area of recruiting, just better athletes there in the back end. But you lost some guys. You lost both of the Metcalfs. You lost Jalen Braxton. How do you fill some of those holes with some of the guys that you brought in? And I think you make a really interesting comment about the offensive line, because I think it can go both ways, Phil. I think you can go and get better offensive linemen and bring them in to replace what you lost and to elevate that room. But then there's always that question of, with any unit, more than anything, the defensive line and the offensive line have to be in sync. And when you bring so many new guys in, you have a limited amount of time to build that chemistry, as opposed to, I can't remember off the top of my head, and it might have been Texas Tech, actually, as we were getting ready for the bowl game, about the storyline being these guys have played together for so long, and they know each other so well. So it's an interesting two sides of the coin there of, okay, you go in, you bring in new talent, you elevate the room. Can they still play as a unit come, August 30th when the first game is?
Alyssa, so you get, the starting quarterback. Hey, you get the starting quarterback coming back. You get Bobby Petrino year 2, Travis Williams year 3. Who's more the pressure on if you're talking about, because one of our best attributes of this Razorback football team is our offensive and defensive coordinator. Who do you think there's more pressure on this year?
Ooh, that is a good question, because I think there's such a good argument for both. But I really think truly because Travis Williams is maybe proved himself a little bit more because he's been here longer, you got to look at Bobby Petrino's offense and say, okay, where is it? They brought in Bobby to run this offense, and so many Arkansas fans wanted to see what they saw when he was here as the head coach, and the way that offense was so dynamic. We didn't see much of that as we thought we would last year. And there were obviously some factors there, and Taylor learning a brand new offense. Can this offense look more like a Bobby Petrino offense in year two? Because I think you can look and say, okay, we know what a Travis Williams defense is going to look like. Obviously, you want them to come in and be prepared and be focused. And we saw some ups and downs with them a season ago, but truly, it's looking at Bobby Petrino and saying, okay, where is this offense? We want to actually see what things can do on that side of the ball.
Well, and especially because of the second year with Taylor Green. I mean, I'd say at the top of the list. That's why, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but it's just more expectations, right? And,
sure.
But I think if I were to use the word pressure for a specific position coach, I think you'd look at Eric Mateos. And I'm sure he's feeling, maybe, his own pressure that he puts on himself to bring in the right guys.
Sure.
And it's just like you said, you've got to hope that they mesh the right way, that there's a mental chemistry and a physical chemistry that go along with it. And, I mean, that's not all on the coach, but that's who everybody's looking at.
Well, I don't think it helps either that your Eric Mateos and your head coach used to be one of the most highly respected offensive line coaches in the country. And then when there is anything that goes wrong with the offense, it's like, why does the offensive line, suck, aren't very good, aren't playing consistent? You're an offensive line guy. Like, this should be the bread and butter of this team. And that's not always a very fair assessment, right? But it's the first thing that people say. And now you're Eric Mateos, who leads that group, and it's your guys. There is a lot of pressure, even when maybe it's not necessarily fair to do so.
We're going to give you a chance to gush over Clayton Kershaw here for being the 20th pitcher to reach 3,000 strikeouts. And then I don't remember the last time somebody was this before. Maybe it happened and I forgot about it. But to be, I don't know if the word is nostalgic pick for the All-Star game, but he's a commissioner's pick for the All-Star game, which I think is interesting. Yeah. It's just nice to be able to honor somebody. But does that really mean you're an All-Star this year?
Yeah, I think it's a tip of the cap to an all-star career, because he has had such a more of a comeback year where he's got some injuries. I mean, he did a rehab assignment, if you remember, with the Tulsa Drillers, and they were here in Northwest Arkansas, and he pitched a few innings earlier in the year. And for him to do what he did with 3,000 strikeouts was really special, and watched that clip a couple times. It was really cool to see, but I really think it's more of a, like you said, a tip of the cap to an all-star career, not necessarily an all-star season, but I guarantee if you asked every player who is going to be on those all-star rosters, do you think Clayton Kershaw deserves to be here? I don't think you're going to find a no.
And to kind of bridge the two conversations that we've had here, Trey Biddy put out a tweet and an article that he's written on his 24/7 sports Hog Sports website that refers to the idea that the Razorbacks are playing moneyball. Your Dodgers are playing the opposite of moneyball. They're playing we have more money than anybody ball. The Razorbacks are playing a much different game. And I've gotten into this a few times because you see this in professional sports where there are programs, there are teams. Well, you don't use the word program in pro sports. There are teams that know they've got to find value where others don't see it. You don't get too many transfers from top-level Power 4 programs into Arkansas, so they've got to really pick and choose the right way. They're a moneyball program in the SEC. I don't know how many you'd say there are, but Arkansas is one, which makes every single, and I'll use a pro sports word here, transaction they make magnified and amplified.
Sure. I do. I think so. And I think for Arkansas, because, like you said, you're not going out and just throwing money at the best players to get them to come to play for you. What you're having to do is evaluate guys on so much deeper level and say, where do we see the potential? How can we develop this guy from where he is here to maybe 3 steps up by the time the season goes, or, throughout the season for next year as we build on the future, where are the upsides? Where is the development? And that is where this coaching staff is really going to be critiqued is, do we see development from the guys that you are bringing in and being able to coach them up? And that's a lot on the guys you bring in, if they're willing to do that. And then obviously the coaches and their capabilities of developing these guys. And I think Arkansas has always kind of been that kind of program. You bring guys in who you're going to bring in stars, but then you're bringing guys in who you really feel like you can develop into good players. You just have to be able to develop them once they get here.
BetOnline continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting action. And with baseball in full swing and football season right around the corner, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting. From MLB, UFC to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Head to the website today and take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses and weekly cash boosts. BetOnline. The game starts here.